Welcome, everyone. I'm Mahir, and this is my partner, Kapil. We, as applied AI architects, continue to go deeper into the artificial intelligence world. Now it's time to discuss the product side. So, Kapil, here is my question. Could you please explain in simple terms how does an LLM work?
Okay, Mahir, I'll try to make it simple. It's complex. So you asked me a question. Let me ask you a question. Is London closer to Paris or London closer to New York?
Paris, for sure.
How did you figure that out?
Yeah, I think of the map, and I think the distance on the map is much more closer, so that's why.
Absolutely, right? So in your head, you have a map and every city has a position on that map. So maybe we call it latitude and longitude. So every city has a lat long. And you have some idea in your head that there is London here, there's Paris here, and New York is really far off. Right? That's how you figure it. So this is how the geographical knowledge of the world is mapped. That every place has a lat long. Imagine that we try to do the same for language, which means that for every word, you have a coordinate, and that coordinate tells you something about that word. Okay, so I'll give you a slightly simple example. So now let's assume that there are only two axes on which we will try to figure this out. One axis is how polite or rude the word is. So on one axis, very polite words, on the other part, rude words. Okay. And on the vertical side, how long is the word? Suppose it's more than 6-7 characters, then it is long or it is short. Got it? Rude, polite, long, short. So a word like appreciate, it's a long word and a polite word. So it coordinate becomes long and polite. Sorry, it will be a polite but a short word. Okay. Sit will be a rude and a short word. Imbecile will be a rude and a long word. Okay. So now, just by this coordinate, you are able to figure out, you have converted words into some sort of a mathematical number. So by looking at the number, a computer will understand which word is polite and long, which word is rude and short, etc. Okay. So basically the way LLM works, Mahir, is that we assign a coordinate to every word, but that coordinate is really long, right? So in order to capture the complexity of our language, so for example, GPT-2 had put out its the way they have trained the model, etc. And every word had 1600 coordinates.
Wow, so 1600 factors, parameters.
So they are classifying words in a way that every word gets 1600 coordinates. So the dimensions in which a word is operating is 1600. We can't imagine, right? Humans can't imagine anything beyond 3 dimensions. And by calculating the distance from any axis, you are able to calculate, for example, suppose there's an axis of polite versus rude. So there's one coordinate for this axis, and the computer can calculate is the word polite or rude or whatever. So whenever you give a prompt to a LLM, write in polite language, it exactly knows that how to figure out that I need to choose polite words. So it will calculate the distance from the polite axis to the word, and the more polite the word is, the shorter the distance from the polite axis to that. The further away the word goes, it knows that this is not a polite word, or it is not related to being polite.
So it's grouping, basically.
In a way, it's pattern matching only, right? LLM is a kind of machine learning only, right? It's absolutely. This is the basics, that every word gets a vector. And then there is some sort of processing which helps, and I don't want to get into the complexities of how it is done. But the entire idea about a LLM model is to figure out the coordinates of a word. That's all. And then there's some computing which sorts of works on those, and these are called weights. I mean, if you use a sort of a technical language.
Kapil, I have a question. Because we have different LLM bots these days. We have, Gemini, ChatGPT, Cloud, or others. But they sometimes provide different outputs. How does that happen? Then how can that happen that different LLMs bring different results?
So, Mahir, you know that kids who are brought up in Turkey, they speak Turkish. The kids who are brought up in an Irish household speak Irish. So it's like brain. So whatever the data is used for training, so the kid in an Irish family is hearing Irish words. So its brain creates the map which has Irish words. For a kid in a Turkish household, his brain creates the map of the words in Turkish. So it is just completely dependent upon what the data or training data has been used.
I see.
So Google and OpenAI, they use different data sources, and then there are slightly more complex things of what to give more weight. So the way they train their network is slightly different. The training corpus is slightly different. And all of these companies do something which is called as fine tuning, which means that once they know the coordinates, they adjust it depending upon the rules of the country, etc. So there are those nuances because of which the weights of a word become different for different models. What you can do is that you can take a model which is just trained on literature of doctors. So it becomes a doctor specialized LLM. You can take a model and do all the legal things in the world, and it becomes a legal specific LLM because it is trained on that data. So it will map the coordinate of that word according to what it has seen, right?
And if you give more data, topics, points, then the grouping will be much more precise. Therefore, I think the outputs will be much more in line with reality or what we are looking for, right?
Absolutely. And that's how for specific use cases, what is recommended is that you retrain your model with some historical data which is relevant to you. So that model gets to know that, see, because a word can be used in so many contexts. So the model will now know, okay, so for my this current use case, this is how the words are interpreted. So this is called fine tuning. And that's how I feel is very important for any business to take the base model, but tune it a little bit to its own lingo because every company has a different culture, the way the words are used. So just tune the model according to the way what your use case is. Clear
Yes.
to you what a LLM is now? Simply, very in a very simple language, somewhat clear at least.
Yeah, it's clear for me. And if it's clear for me, I think everyone would understand it. Thank you, Kapil.
Thanks, Mike.